Good morning, I'm Eva if you are new around here, and today I'm going to bring you along for a day in my life as a full-time illustrator. But first, let's make coffee. Alright, so now it's around 9 a.m. and I already looked at my to-do list, which are the most important tasks today with the deadline, and I also replied to some of my comments on social media. But let me show you some of the notes which I have in my notebook, so let's go over there. Alright, so here are my notes for social media and some notes for client project, which we'll talk about in a moment. And for social media, I'm trying to keep somehow regular schedule where I try to post every few days, if I manage every 3 or 4 days. But yeah, let me bring you closer. So here are some of my notes that I wrote for social media. And I sometimes reply to comments with breakfast or when I'm in the tram, so I try to multitask. Sometimes I don't have enough time to catch up with all the comments and questions, but I always read all of your comments. So thank you so much everyone who takes time to like or comment either my posts or vote on the posts or comment and like my videos. I appreciate it so much. And now let's talk about the client project for a moment. So now I'm about to start working on a client project. At this stage of this project, here are a few notes that I wrote down, and I can't show you more about this current project because it's confidential, but I'm hoping that I can show you something more from the next one, and I will work on this until lunch, and then I'm off to a next task. I love working on interesting client projects because they are very inspiring, but usually due to confidentiality, I can't share much of the process or the final artwork. And this limitation led me to start creating tutorials and classes so I can share more of my art and also what I learned over the years. Alright, and next task on my list is to gather some illustrations that I have worked on, especially those related to sea life. And you might have seen on my Instagram that I've been experimenting with illustrating the same scene using different colors, and in one version I used more subtle and less saturated colors, and in the other one I used more bright colors. And I also added some animals in each illustration, and in one I added turtle, and in the other one I added spotted stingrays. Well, I'll put the correct name from my references on the screen. So I've been looking through my old art because I want to create a new illustration focusing on underwater scenes. And I found looking at variety of references helpful when creating something new, basically new illustration. Also, I wanted to have a cohesive overview of my illustrations with the same topic. And at the same time, I think it's interesting to see the different styles that I worked on over time. And I think it's also interesting to compare and reflect of what I enjoyed when working in certain style and what I also practiced when I was drawing in that style. For example, in one illustration, I focus more on quick doodle sketches with practicing negative space and observing the silhouettes of the animals. And while in others, I concentrated more on pattern design or just practicing observing different animals using kind of simple sketch style with pencil sketching brushes. So why was I collecting these? Well, because I'm not only planning a new illustration, but I'm also planning a new tutorial about painting underwater scenes and backgrounds. And I want to compile different illustration inspirations as well as real-life photo references for this tutorial. And I plan to explain my process and share tips while creating this new illustration in the tutorial. And let me also quickly show you some of the artworks that were part of the previous classes. For example, this color exploration was part of my digital illustration class with Procreate, and basically how you can use the app to your advantage. And this next one was from my class on how to paint waves in Procreate. And I quite enjoyed creating these illustrations for the classes and as well the classes with different scenes and tips on painting scenes. And if you've seen them, I hope that you enjoy them and also found them helpful. And it's always so nice to see your projects inspired by the classes. And looking at these older illustrations, it felt like going through a journal or a memory lane. So as I said, I think it's helpful to have a collection of different references and inspiration when creating new ones. Alright, now it's after lunch and I want to start working on a new tutorial, and I think it's also a good time to tell you about exciting project that I was working on. So I'm super excited to tell you that I'm launching my own art club where you will be able to access all my classes I have made so far, tutorials, and you will be also able to see my process videos with tips and insights. And I will be also hosting monthly drawing challenges with bunch of inspiration and more tips. And there will be new content every month, and you can also vote for new content and much more. So I have been thinking about this project for a while, and also it took me a long time to put together. So I hope that you will love it, and I will put all the links in the description so you can check it out. And now let's go to the next task of today. So during the month and basically the year of projects, I often find myself juggling a bunch of projects. But here's the thing, sometimes out of nowhere I get this, huge wave of motivation and inspiration to start something new, and which can be completely new, right? And almost it can feel unnecessary just to add to a pile of projects with all the other tasks and deadlines. Like in the middle of everything else, I suddenly think, hey, why not to create a whole new set of brushes? For example, artist crayon brush set. Well, because the textures in the mixed media sketchbook that I always keep on the side are so nice, and it would be actually great to be able to use similar textures in my digital art as well. So how I approach these kind of bursts of inspiration is that always at the beginning of the week I revisit my times and deadlines to see if I have time to squeeze in passion projects, so I know that when the inspiration strikes, I can take some time to focus on that. So I know that I have time to spare and I can channel my inspiration and energy into a project that helps me keep the motivation going at the moment. and then circle back to the rest later. As long as I'm hitting my deadlines, it's all great. So I always keep an eye on that. And when I start testing out all these lovely textures for brushes, getting ready to bundle them up into a set for Procreate, it's gonna take a long time for these sessions to get the whole set ready, because I always want to get the textures and blending right. And it usually takes a long time to create the high quality brushes that feel like traditional media ready. So I chip away at it over time and wrap it up when I can. And when I'm designing the new brushes, I deep dive and spend weeks fine-tuning the settings and textures just to capture the perfect traditional media feel that I want to achieve in my digital sketchbook and the digital artworks, because I really like that traditional feel in digital media. And I'm not just talking about quick tweaks here and there. I deep dive into designing these brushes for weeks and sometimes months. And it's all about playing with the settings, messing around with different textures, and really putting those brushes to work and create the illustrations. And well, my goal is to nail that authentic traditional media vibe that I just talked about. And so the brushes feels just right. And it's a very detailed process on my end here, and experimenting, adjusting until everything just clicks. And then it doesn't just stop there when testing brushes with random strokes, because as you can see here, I also create test artworks, and not only like one, I create a bunch of them to get to see my brushes in action and to figure out how they behave, whether I use them for details or rough loose textures or as blender brushes. So this is basically kind of very important step for me, because I get to see the brushes in kind of like real action, to understand their behavior and decide which ones are good enough to join the final lineup of brush set. And this process is key for me because it ensures that I'm not throwing random brushes into a mix, and I'm really trying to curate the collection that can bring the creative ideas to life and basically makes everyone happy when using them to create artworks, that are the most authentic as possible as traditional media in digital space. Alright, I think I will work on this illustration or this idea concept a little bit more, but I think so far it looks pretty nice. I still need to kind of balance the composition and maybe add some more colors, but I think for the testing brushes purposes it's good enough. I already have some brushes that I quite like, for example this one, which I think it's great for the grass, for example, if I draw something like this, very quick strokes, or if I want to add a little bit of texture to something. So this is one of my favorite brushes so far from this new pack. Then this one, it's also similar, but in different angle. So I will see if I include this one in the set. So far I really like it. Then I also quite like this brush because I can fill in quickly big areas, and with soft pressure it gives me a lot of texture. Maybe let me take a different color so you see it better. So you can get a lot of texture, and if you press harder it's also more opaque. So anyway, I will continue working on these brushes, and I will try to finalize the brush pack as soon as possible. So hopefully when I have this video ready and edited for you guys, the brush pack will be available as well. But if not, please keep an eye on that. And until then, I also have all the other brush packs, for gouache, watercolor and pencil sketches, I usually still like to do the outlines with one of my favorite pencil brushes or pencils, and I will link all of it in the description. Alright, and one of the other things is that I wanted to change the tip on the Apple Pencil, because I haven't changed it for a long time, and some of you might know that I have the screen protector, which makes the experience of drawing on iPad very nice. Well, at least in my opinion, because when you are drawing, it kind of creates this feel almost that you are drawing on the paper, and it also has a very nice sound in my opinion. Anyway, so let me close this, and I have the pencil tips right here, so they are pretty easy to change. So I will just unscrew this part and I'll just place it here. Then I will take a new one and then you just hold one part and you just screw that in. So all done. Yay! And since I've wrapped up all the main essential tasks with today's deadline, I now have the chance to kind of indulge in some drawing in my mixed media sketchbook, so it's always fun. And I want to use my wax oil pastels. So first I need to get them out of this box where I'm storing them right now on the table. First, I thought keeping them in the box seemed quite convenient, but then I realized that storing them in more like small bowls would be far more practical and they would be more accessible. Not to mention that it allows me for better organization, so I can organize them by color. And I would like to know if you also sort out your traditional media by color. I'm currently categorizing them into two groups, kind of warm and cool tones. And once everything is organized, so I can see them better which ones are where, I can dive into experimenting with the pastels. So basically here I'm exploring the various textures that these pastels produce on both smooth and rough textures. So right now I'm using the smooth paper. And this exploration will not only be relaxing, kind of like a sketchbooking session, but also it's kind of like a practical exercise in kind of redefining my drawing skills. So basically the practice, and I have a reference image for this small drawing, and also I'm testing textures for future brush set. So in this way I'm able to kind of mix the relaxation of sketchbooking, practicing, developing my skills, and also testing out textures for the brushes. So I really like mixing different things at the same time. I mean, sometimes multitasking is maybe too much. So anyway, I will spend a little bit more time in my sketchbook before moving to the next part of my day. And the last task of the day, but also one of the important ones for me, is going outside. Sometimes for a nice long walk in the forest or in the town, appreciating the architecture and the gardens, or just around the house. If possible, I try to go for a longer walk every day because I think balancing work and life is crucial, especially for creatives like us who often find ourselves glued to our screens for hours. And when I'm outside, I always try to notice the little things, for example, flowers or leaves, colors of the window shutters, maybe bees, and so on. And this helps me to stay in the moment rather than stressing about deadlines and other projects. And in addition to that, I can take pictures, which I can later use as an art inspiration. And I believe that prioritizing the time to get outside is a form of self-care that directly impacts our work and our art. And in my experience, making time for these walks, even just like a brief walk, and maybe over the weekend a longer one, can significantly impact my mood and creativity. And I feel like walking outside gives, our brain a break from the constant digital inspiration and, what we see around us in digital form. And being outside can help us to clear our mind to start or continue to work on projects that are important to us. And the rhythm of walking, the fresh air and kind of the sheer beauty of nature and flowers and colors of nature, I think can ignite the creative spark that gets kind of dulled by constant work in front of the screen. Alright, that's it. I hope that the video was helpful for you and maybe even brought you some comfort. And I want to thank you for being here. And if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. And I see you next time. Bye!